My name is Maria Rose. I am 112 years old. At 80 I was dying, not dramatically, but slowly, the way a candle burns down in a room nobody's watching. My legs itched so badly I couldn't stand long enough to make tea. My knees throbbed every night. Getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain that kept getting steeper. The doctors gave me this pill and that pill, sent me from specialist to specialist, and somewhere in all that shuffling I got lost. My children were good people, but they were in their 50s, already tired, already planning their own retirements. So I agreed to the nursing home. I packed 2 suitcases and told myself this was where my story ended. And then Dorothy walked through that door. We had gone to the same high school in Ohio 60 years before that afternoon. She looked 30 years younger than she should have. She sat across from me, took my hands and said, "Maria, what happened to you?" She told me about 5 foods from the Bible. She also told me something else, something I will share at the very end because without it, the food means almost nothing. That was 32 years ago. I am still here living independently and at peace in my beloved home and garden. My legs still work. Here is what she told me. 1. Olive oil, what the ancient world called liquid gold. The Bible mentions olive oil more than 140 times. Kings were anointed with it. Wounds were healed with it. It wasn't decoration. It wasn't ceremony for the sake of ceremony. The people who wrote those ancient texts were observant. They paid attention to what healed them. Olive oil healed them. Dorothy poured olive oil over nearly everything she ate. Not the pale, watery kind in the plastic bottle at the back of most grocery store shelves. Real extra virgin olive oil, cold-pressed, dark with a smell that actually means something. I had heard of olive oil my whole life and never once thought of it as medicine. I thought of it as salad dressing. I was wrong. When I started using it every single day, genuinely using it, a tablespoon stirred into warm water each morning, poured generously over my vegetables, drizzled over fish, used in place of every other oil I owned, something began to shift, not overnight. Nothing real happens overnight. But within a few weeks, that grinding stiffness in my knees, the kind that made the first steps out of bed feel like punishment, it began to ease, not disappear. Ease like someone had turned down the volume on the pain. The science, as Dorothy explained it to me, comes down to something in real olive oil called oleonthyl. It works in your body almost exactly the way ibuprofen does, quieting the inflammation that stiffens your joints and wears down your muscle tissue. Chronic inflammation is one of the great silent thieves of old age. You don't see it. You just feel yourself getting slower, stiffer, heavier, more reluctant to move. And the less you move, the weaker your legs become. Olive oil, the real kind, works to interrupt that cycle. For your legs specifically, the benefit is circulation. The healthy fats in good olive oil keep your blood vessels flexible. Oxygen and nutrients can reach your muscles efficiently. You feel less heavy. Recovery after activity comes faster. The tendons and soft tissue surrounding your knee and hip joints stay better lubricated, more supple, less prone to that locked-up feeling that makes older adults afraid to walk too far from home. Get the real thing. Look for cold-pressed extra virgin dark bottle, harvest date on the label. Use it like the ancient world used it generously daily without apology. 2. Honey, not the bear-shaped bottle, the real thing. Eat honey, for it is good. That is from Proverbs. Honey and milk are under your tongue. That is from Solomon. Jonathan dips his rod in honey and his eyes brighten. The Bible does not present honey as a treat. It presents honey as a substance that gives strength and clarity. Raw honey, the kind that has not been heated past 100 degrees, the kind that still contains all its original enzymes and beneficial compounds, is one of the most powerful natural antimicrobials ever. Studied, it kills bacteria that antibiotics cannot touch. It was used in wound dressings in ancient warfare for very practical reasons. It works, but what does that have to do with your legs? More than you might think. The muscles in your legs depend on efficient energy delivery. They depend on your gut absorbing nutrients properly. They depend on low systemic inflammation. Raw honey supports all three. It provides natural sugars that your body can use without the violent blood sugar spike and crash that refined sugar creates. It feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which improves how well your body absorbs the other nutrients you eat, and it carries enzymes and antioxidants that calm the inflammatory pathways that otherwise slowly erode your muscle tissue and joint comfort. I take a spoonful every morning. Sometimes I stir it into warm water with a squeeze of lemon. Sometimes I eat it straight. The key, and Dorothy was very specific about this, is raw and unheated. What they sell in most grocery stores, that clear, perfectly smooth, indefinitely shelf-stable product, has been heated and filtered to the point where most of what made it valuable has been destroyed. It tastes like honey. It is not honey in the way your great-grandmother would have recognized honey. Find a local beekeeper if you can. Farmers' markets usually carry it. Look for the kind that has some cloudiness, some texture, sometimes a little crystallization. That is what real honey looks like. That is the kind that still has something living in it. 3. Figs. The fruit that healed a king. Here is a detail from the Bible that most people walk right past. When King Hezekiah was dying from a severe infection, a dangerous skin ulcer, the prophet Isaiah did not simply pray over him. He ordered a pus of figs pressed directly onto the wound, and Hezekiah recovered. For a long time, people read that as a strange folk remedy. Now we know better. Figs contain fin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead tissue and supports healing. They contain compounds with documented antimicrobial properties. The fig was not chosen arbitrarily. It was chosen because it worked, because generations of observation had established that it worked for your legs. What matters most about figs is mineral density and gut support. Figs are extraordinarily rich in magnesium, potassium, calcium, and B vitamins. In the world before multivitamins, figs were the supplement, and magnesium in particular is something most older adults are severely deficient in without knowing it. Magnesium is what allows your muscles to relax. When your levels are low, your muscles are in a constant state of low-grade tension. You feel it as cramps, as nighttime leg spasms, as that heavy tight feeling after you have been walking for a while. As legs that simply will not fully unwind when you lie down to rest. I had that for years, that specific misery. Within a month of eating figs regularly, it began to ease in a way that no prescription medication had managed. Potassium in figs supports proper muscle contraction. Without adequate potassium, your muscle signals get confused. Coordination suffers, balance suffers. The small, precise adjustments your legs make constantly just to keep you upright become less reliable. Eat them fresh when they are in season. Keep dried figs on hand the rest of the year. They are sweet enough to feel like a small indulgence. They are doing serious work. For almonds, the nut the Bible built a temple around. When God instructed Moses on the design of the temple's lamps and the menorah, he specified that the cup should be shaped like almond blossoms. Aaron's rod, the one that miraculously budded with almonds, the first tree to bloom in spring, a symbol of watchfulness, of readiness, of life returning before anything else dares. The people who designed those rituals were not thinking about nutrition as we understand it, but they were building an entire culture around a food that turned out to be one of the most nutrient-dense things a human being can eat. 1 oz of almonds, which is roughly a small handful, provides about 37% of your daily vitamin E. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects your cell membranes from oxidative damage in your leg muscles. That matters enormously. Every time you walk, every time you climb a step, every time you push yourself up out of a chair, your muscle fibers undergo stress. They develop tiny micro tears. That is normal. That is how muscles maintain themselves. But they need antioxidants to repair properly, to come back stronger rather than coming back inflamed and degraded. Almonds also provide magnesium, which we already talked about, and unsaturated fats that support circulation. But perhaps most importantly for the legs of older adults, almonds provide a slow, steady form of energy that does not spike and crash. A small handful in the mid-afternoon, when energy tends to dip and legs tend to feel their heaviest, makes a difference that is almost immediate. Clinical research has shown that regular almond consumption lowers LDL cholesterol, reduces the blood sugar spikes that damage blood vessels, and supports gut microbiome diversity, which in turn affects how efficiently your entire body absorbs and uses nutrients. I eat a small handful every single day. Raw or very lightly roasted, not salted, not coated, not processed into anything, just almonds. The ancient world kept it that simple. That is still the right approach. 5. Fish, the food that fed the disciples. Fish is everywhere in the Gospels. The disciples were fishermen. The miraculous feeding centered on fish. After the resurrection, Jesus ate fish with his followers by the shore. This was not incidental. In first-century coastal Israel, fish was the primary protein for ordinary people. And it turns out that ordinary people were eating one of the most powerful muscle-preserving, joint-protecting, nerves-supporting foods on the planet. The fish of the biblical world were eaten simply grilled over charcoal. No batter, no processing, no industrial seed oils that obliterate the very nutrients that make fish worth eating. Just fish prepared with nothing that interferes. What makes fish irreplaceable for aging legs is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Your body cannot manufacture these on its own. They must come from food, and their effect on the muscles and joints of older adults is among the most thoroughly documented findings in nutritional science. Omega-3 reduce the systemic inflammation that slowly destroys muscle tissue. They improve the flexibility of blood vessel walls, ensuring that oxygen and nutrients can reach your leg muscles efficiently, and that waste products can be carried away promptly. They protect the sheath surrounding your nerve fibers, which means the signals telling your leg muscles exactly what to do travel more accurately, resulting in better coordination, better balance. Fewer of those terrifying moments where your leg does not respond quite the way you intended. Sarcopenia, the accelerating muscle loss that comes with aging, is significantly slowed by regular omega-3 consumption. Studies have shown that older adults who eat fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week retain muscle mass at a meaningfully higher rate than those who do not. That is not a minor benefit. That is the difference between legs that carry you and legs that have begun to fail you. I eat salmon, sardines, anchovies. Simple preparations baked with olive oil and lemon straight from a responsibly sourced can, when that is what I have 2 to 3 times per week, without fail for 32 years, now I promised you something. At the end I told you Dorothy shared a secret, something beyond the food, and I need you to hear this, because without it the 5 foods I just described will help you, but they will not save you when... Dorothy sat across from me in that nursing home visiting room. She looked at me very carefully and asked a question I was not prepared for. She said, "Maria, what are you carrying?" I didn't understand what she meant at first. She said it again. "What are you still carrying? What happened to you that you haven't put down?" And then I understood. 30 years before that afternoon, my husband had an affair. It lasted 2 years. When I found out, something in me broke in a way that I told myself had healed over time, but had not. I had rebuilt my life. I had smiled through decades of Christmas dinners and grandchildren's birthdays and anniversary parties for other people. I had said I forgave him because that was what a good woman did, but I had not. I had packed the wound tight and covered it and gone on living on top of it. Dorothy said to me very quietly, "That is what is making you sick, not just your knees, you." I wanted to argue. I had arguments prepared. I had lived with this thing for 30 years, and I was very practiced at explaining why the anger was reasonable, why the hurt was legitimate, why forgiving did not mean forgetting. All of that is true, and all of it was killing me. Hatred is not like a weapon you hold. It is like a poison you drink. The person you are angry at is not affected. You are affected. Every cell in your body registers the chronic stress of unexpressed grief and suppressed fury. Your cortisol stays elevated. Your inflammation pathways stay activated. Your immune function degrades. Your sleep fractures. Your muscles tense and never fully release. The legs that ache every morning are not just aching from age. They are aching from the weight of everything you have refused to put down. I spent the next year doing the hardest thing I've ever done. I forgave my husband, not because what he did was acceptable. It was not because he deserved peace. I do not know what he deserved, but because I deserved peace. Because I had spent 30 years drinking poison and wondering why I felt so sick. And then I did the other thing Dorothy told me to do, the thing that filled the space that the anger left behind. I started helping people, small things. In the nursing home, there was a woman on the floor below mine who had no family visiting. I started stopping by her room in the afternoons. There was a man who could not see well enough to read his mail. I read it to him. There was a woman who had been a piano teacher her whole life and missed music more than she could say. I found out the common room had an old upright piano that nobody played, and I asked the staff to wheel her down to it on Thursday afternoons. None of this was large, all of it was real. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote that human beings can endure almost any suffering if they have a reason for it. Meaning is not a luxury, it is a biological necessity. When you have something to wake up for, when someone or something needs you, your body responds. Your nervous system quiets, your inflammation markers fall, your muscles receive better signals. Your legs, which your body had been slowly convincing itself, had no urgent purpose. Begin to remember what they are for. I walked out of that nursing home 14 months after Dorothy's visit. I have not been back. I am 112 years old. My legs carry me through my garden every morning. I do not take the medications I was on at 80. I sleep without pain. I am not telling you this to impress you. I am telling you this because I wasted 30 years that I cannot get back. And if one person watching this video puts something down today that they have been carrying too long, then this was worth saying. Start with the olive oil, add the honey, eat your figs and your almonds, eat your fish 2 or 3 times a week. These things are real. They will help your legs. They will help your joints. They will help your muscles remember what they are capable of. But also look honestly at what you are carrying, not what happened to you. That happened, it was real. You did not deserve it, but you get to decide what you do with it now. You get to decide whether it continues to be something you live under or something you put down and walk away from. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the most powerful thing I have ever done, and I have lived through a great deal. Find one person who needs something small that you can give. Not money, not heroism, just attention, just presence, just the particular dignity of being seen by someone who chose to see them. Do that consistently and watch what happens to your own strength. Watch what happens to your legs when your whole body believes it has somewhere worth going. Dorothy gave me 5 foods and 1 truth. The foods fed my body. The truth set it free. Eat well. Forgive everything. Show up for someone. That is all I know. That is everything. I am Maria Rose. I am 112 years old, and I will see you in the garden tomorrow morning. The information shared in this video reflects personal experience and is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. Please consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you are managing chronic conditions or taking medications.